Hey guys, it's Sharmis Idris here, and today I'll be teaching you how to make a very beginner cold process soap. So this is a basic cold process soap with a little texture on the top and some fragrance, nothing too crazy. So if you're new to soap making or you've never even made soap and you're thinking about making cold process soap, I think this would be a great video for you because I will be going step by step and giving you some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way of making soap. But before we get into actually making the soap, we do need to talk about safety because you will be mixing lye, which can be dangerous if you don't handle it correctly. So I always wear my gloves just to protect my hands, and then I wear long sleeves just to protect my arms, because if you're mixing the lye solution, it can splash back on your arm, and I have had that happen before, and I just run it underwater for what seems like 15 minutes. So yes, I know some people say vinegar, but I've always flushed it out with water and I've been perfectly fine. So the next thing I'd say is wear your eye protection because you don't want it to splash back in your face. And I also wear a mask just because lye does let off fumes, and so you also need to mix it in a well ventilated area. Most of the time I do have the windows open and I still have my mask on just to be safe, because it's lye, so you just want to be safe. I always have my hair pulled back, but that's with anything that I make because I really don't want a distraction, and I don't want my hair in the soap because that's kind of gross. What else? I also wear closed-toed shoes, and for the most part I wear pants as well. When mixing lye, you will always put the lye into the water and never the other way around. And in the video, you'll also see me use ice cubes, which I'll discuss again in the video. But you see me use ice cubes because that cuts down on the fumes. Well, in my opinion, because I don't smell as many. So I don't really smell anything when I use ice cubes instead of just plain out, you know, water. So now that we have gotten the safety part out the way, now we can go ahead and start making the soap. So the first thing I do is choose my mold for the soap. There are so many different types of molds out there. As you can see, there's just a few here. But I do only use silicone molds because it's easier to pop the soap out for me. And today I'll just use the mold that I see the most out there used by beginners. And this one actually happened to come with a soap cutter as well, which I'll show you later. And I will have all of this linked down in the description below. So next we need to discuss what type of container you should mix your lye solution in. When I first started, I did use heat-resistant Pyrex glass containers, but I did have people reach out to me and say they might, you know, burst over time or chip away over time. So I did stop using them, and then I switched to stainless steel. But now I use this plastic, and you can't just use any plastic. So the symbol on the bottom of this is PP with a 5 in the middle of the triangle. I think it's polypropylene, which is what the PP stands for. I found that using this type of plastic is very good for lye. I haven't had any issues. And luckily I was able to find this at Dollar Tree for $1, so I just got a bunch of them. Now I'll get started on the lye solution. So I'll go ahead and measure out the water, and I am just using a kitchen scale. And as I stated earlier, I do like to freeze my distilled water in these type of ice trays with a little silicone on the bottom, and like I said, this will be in the description below as well. And of course, using the ice cubes will make sure that my lye solution does not get as hot, and I do get it very close to the measurement, and then add the rest in water, distilled water. And as you can see, I do have my recipe here, and I use soapcalc.net for all of my recipes just to make sure that I have the right measurements of lye and water and oils for the mold that I'm going to use. Next, I'll weigh out my lye, and this container is also from Dollar Tree. I have tons of them. So now I will mix my lye into my water, not the other way around. And with the ice cubes, I do like to pour half in and then mix it around, and then the rest. And I should also mention that I will be making a bigger batch than what can fit in this mold because I will use one of the pop-out molds as well. For today's recipe, I will be soaping between 110 degrees Fahrenheit to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I do like to keep it around 115, but in other videos you will see me do different temperatures. I just like to try it and figure out which one's best for me. Sometimes I do it at room temperature so that my lye solution and my oils are at room temperature, and Sometimes I like to do between 120 and 130. I never go above 130 though. So first I'll go ahead and weigh out the oils and butters that need to be melted down, and in this case it is cocoa butter and coconut oil. Once they're all weighed out, I'll go ahead and put them in the microwave in 45-second bursts until they're fully melted. Once my oils and butters are melted, I'll go ahead and add my olive oil and my castor oil. And before I start mixing the soap, I'll go ahead and measure out the fragrance oil as well. So my oil mixture ended up being around 116 degrees Fahrenheit, and my lye solution was around 113 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm going to mix my lye solution into my oils. And you can do this by pouring it on the spatula or on the immersion blender. But I like to pour it slowly so that I don't have as many air bubbles. Just one side note about the immersion blender or hand mixer, hand blender, whatever you call it. I do like to get the one with a detachable head because the first one I had did not have this and it was much harder to clean up. And I will be mixing on the lowest speed, and I will go ahead and have it in real time for you, just so that you can see exactly how long I mix this solution. Before I put any of my additives into the soap, I make sure that my mixture is emulsified, which just basically means that the oils and the water are completely mixed and are not able to be separated at this point. Okay, so now that I don't see any streaks of oils or waters, it looks like the mixture is completely mixed together. I'll go ahead and add my fragrance oil and then mix until I hit trace. I will add a Soap Queen article all about trace down below just to help you out, but I do like to have mine at a medium trace so that I can just see the line that sits on top of the soap. After I've been mixing a while, I do like to turn the speed up just a little bit on my immersion blender. Now it's time to pour my mixture into the mold. There are so many little designs that you can add to the top of the soap. You can use a fork, you can use spoons. I always recommend not using anything that you would eat with, but I do like to just put little waves in my soap. That's the texture I like the most. But on the other side of the soap, I'll put a different type of texture. It's kind of like a half figure eight, kind of busted, but that's fine. You can use a skewer for this as well. And I'll also go ahead and texture the ones in the other mold as well, which I think I actually went back and fixed them after the video. Next, I'll spray isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol on top of the soap, and I think the percent I use is typically 91% or 99%, and I do this for my cold process soap to help prevent soda ash on top. Now I'm going to add the lid and let these soaps sit out for about 18 to 24 hours. Now let's go over a lot of different types of soap cutters. Of course, you can always use a knife. That's always a great thing to start off with. I don't know what these type of cutters are called, but I also have these. I think they came with another mold that I have, but I also like to use those as well. My first soap cutter is actually a cheese slicer, but it's the same thing. It's a wire that cuts through cheese or soap. And this is the cutter that actually came with the mold that I used with the lid on it. It is also a great cutter. But this one is actually my favorite cutter because it also has a beveler and planer on it as well. And lastly, we have my newest cutter. I can cut, I think, 12 bars at a time with 1 inch thickness. Alright, so I did wait the full 24 hours for this soap, so now it's time to unmold it. Here are 2 of the soaps that I popped out of that other mold. As you can see, I did go back and fix one of them just to see if I can get a flat top. And then this is the textured one. When it comes to cutting my soap, I do like to have them 1 inch thick, but of course that's just my preference. I also want to show you guys how fragrance oil can change the color of your soap. So this light one was fragranced with grapefruit ruby red from Nature's Garden, and it has 0% vanillin content in it. But this brown one was fragranced with French vanilla from Nature's Garden, and that has 6% vanillin content, which can discolor your soaps or your other bath and body products. They also sell color stabilizers that are supposed to help with this discoloration, but I have not tried them yet. So now that you have cut your cold process soap, it is recommended that you let it sit and cure for 4 to 6 weeks. And typically the way I let my soaps cure is I have a shelf in my workspace, and I just let it sit there and have space in between each soap, and I let them sit there for the full 6 weeks just because of the way that I package them. So I use biodegradable shrink wrap, and if the water has not evaporated all of the way out of them, they start shrinking in the shrink wrap, so then I have to shrink wrap it again. It's a whole process, so I just let it do the full 6 weeks. But when I was doing boxes or bags, I let it do 4 weeks, and it was perfectly fine to sell. So I truly hope this video helped someone out there on their cold process soap journey. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you got this far and you liked the video, please like the video, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe. Thank you.